Hello there, yarn lovers, it's Gary and I'm coming to you from my happy place, the Yarn Corner here on the west coast of Canada. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Today is Tuesday, May the 14th, 2024. How are you all doing? I hope you're well and staying safe. If you're happening across this channel for the very first time, I want to welcome you. I set this channel up to talk about all of my yarny crafting journey. That's in knitting, crocheting, and I do dabble in a little bit of yarn dyeing. Also, I talk about my acquisitions where I purchase my yarn from and tools of my craft. So if that is of interest, please stick around. And for those who are returning, I want to say welcome back. I really appreciate the comments in the last video that I dropped, which was a Q&A video. It was something I posted in the community tab here on the channel, and I collected over 40 questions. I managed to answer around half of them, and they were all really good. So thank you for opening up the doors of thinking about the craft and why I do this channel and all those wonderful questions. So if you're interested in going back and taking a look, if you haven't seen it, I'll link it down below in the description box. So with the response that I got, it seemed like you liked me to carry on and answer the remaining questions, and that's what I'll do in next month in June of 2024. And I'll get through them because there are some really good questions that are yet to come. And yeah, so I also want to wish everyone who celebrated Mother's Day the past weekend that just went over a happy Mother's Day. And I normally do talk about what Hank, my man form, is wearing as well. So he is wearing a knitted cowl. It doesn't have a pattern, but I was really interested in playing around with two color sock. One was actually both of them were variegated colors, and I picked a patterning of color work from my Japanese 1000 Knit and Crochet Stitches dictionary. So you'll see the reverse of the two colors that play out in the cowl. So there and there, and then checkers on the other side. So two sock weight. I encapsulated it in or enveloped it in a knitted, just a basic garter. No, this is stocking stitch, and I protected all of the floats, so it's double-sided and really, really thick, good for colder wintry days as well as autumn days. So maybe not the best for right now because we are coming up to summer and the weather is getting really nice here. So I'll just put that back on Hank. Yeah, let's try and battle this. Okay, I think that's good enough. So in this episode, I'm going to be talking about my one finished object and I think 4 different things that are kind of on the go in the background. So let's kick into it. And the first one is the finished object, which is this thing here. Da, 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 da. I absolutely loved making this, and let's see, it's probably around, not my wingspan, but I'm going to say possibly 4.5 feet wide by tip to the center here is probably around, I'm going to guess maybe 3.5 feet. And it's a great little scarferchief shawl that I would probably wear like a little bit of a Western handkerchief bib thing. It's very, very decadent. I followed a tutorial from Crystal over at Bag A Day. It was her shawl make-along that she hosted. I'm going to say it was between April 1st and April 30th. There were 6 videos, and each one of them came out with a section teaching me something new about interesting stitch counts or stitch clusters, and I really enjoyed making it. So it's the finish of it. It has been blocked. I chose to use a fingering weight yarn. Crystal in her tutorial is doing, I think, with DK from Expression Fiber Arts, and hers is spectacular. I'll link the tutorial, as with any other patterns that I mentioned or YouTubers, down below in the description box if you're interested to go across and take a look yourself. So what did I use, I hear you ask? I used everything that's in this plastic bag here, I still have leftovers, so I'm going to be doing something else with this yarn because I do like the colors that I chose. The main focus of the shawl, I used this cake here. It's from Stenli, and it's a cotton, sorry, it's a candy cake from Stenli, and it's 100% cotton. This cake color weight is 85702. There it is there. Sorry about the crinkle. And it's from Stenli. I purchased this from pleta.bg. It is an online store in Bulgaria. And I think it was to the tune of something like maybe 15 to 18 Canadian dollars. And I only used, I'm going to say maybe 2/3 of the cake, and I still have 1/3 of it here. And it's saying that it's 900 meters in the cake, 100% cotton, and it is a 280 gram cake. So yeah, 2/8, sorry, it's not fingering, it's 2/8. What I did was I liked the colors, so I used a center pull, but then I liked the outside color as well, because it's a graduating cake from the inside color, which was a mustard, and then it went into a more yellow green, and then more olive. And I thought I really liked that outside color, which was minty, and I wanted to add a little bit of the mint into the mix as I was working through. So I'll just show you again. There's the mustard. There's the kind of a spearminty mint color. And I put it in a couple of places. So in this window work here, and then 2 lace rows here. And then I went into using a different color. I was at the puff stitch here, which is a puff flower kind of motif. And I had another Stenli cake. So I used this to frame it. This is actually not a Stenli cake. This green here, olive green, is the BC Garn, and it's their soft silk collection. I'll just show you the little label there of that BC Garn. There we go. And this one was in the colorway, I think it was called Olive, if I'm not mistaken. So this one is considered a 2/8 as well. So I thought that that worked really nicely. And in amongst, there's that green there, the olive green from BC Garn. And then the puffs I did in this teal color. This one is a remnants of a Stenli cake, and that is the Merino Cake 1000. That's the label there. The color is 52501. So I have a little bit of each of those cakes that I had used. They were sport weight. Some were 100% acrylic. Some had silk, 100% cotton. Some had the silk cotton blend. And the other one was a merino cotton acrylic. So yeah, all different fibers. I really love it. And I will put that to the side. It is a bit warm in the room right now with the light on, so I probably will dress up Hank in this one in the next episode that I film. So be on the lookout for that, and Hank will sport that in the next one. The hook that I used was this one here, Susan Bates, and this one was a 4mm. Okay, now I'm going to move on to the works in progress. So I'll just stop the camera and be back in a moment. I'm back again, and I couldn't resist. I had to put Crystal's shawl along from April 2024 on Hank, and let's admire it through the rest of this episode. So I'm going to move on now to my whips, and I'm so thrilled about working the projects like crystals, and the next one I'm going to show you, it's heavily crochet textural, tactile stitches, and by no stretch of the imagination are they boring. They're very exciting, lacy, and sometimes they're post work. So I really have been enjoying my shawl makes over the last little while. And so this one deviates a little bit, that I'm going to show you from my regular lighter weight shawls, like the sport weight and the fingering weight shawls that I've been working on of late, and I love working on these. This one is a heavier yarn. It is almost a worsted weight. I'm going to say they classify it as a DK, but I think it's kind of like got a bit of need to be treated like a worsted weight, only because it is quite a sticky, slightly sticky yarn, a little bit toothy. And it's from Stenli as well. And I'm featuring a lot of Stenli cakes right now. This is the Stenli Muffin Tweed cake. And I'm working on a pattern called, it's called the Novella Tom 1. And it's by Yaga Yaga. It's a Polish designer, and it's very heavily charted. There's small bits of English in there when it talks about the key, like describing each of the symbols that are used in the chart, and a small amount of English on the repeats as well, like if you have to do so many repeats across the row. So helpful advice, but I love the international language of chart reading. So need a little bit of help with the English, but when you look at the symbols, they do express so much information that I'm finding it a delight to read, as well as a joy to learn new textures. There's been a couple of mishaps along the way, which I'll show you, but here it is. I am on section 5 of 7, and here we go. Last time I showed you, I was just past the post stitching where you see the ridges from the fillet area. So here, that's section 1, 2, and I believe it's 3 that ends you here. And then I've done 4 and I'm on 5 now. I absolutely am in love with the Yaga Yaga patterns. I'm getting beautiful Rossetti plaster casts that are in architecture and detailed tiling. I absolutely am in love. I'm so happy that I chose a plain color like this off-white. It bleeds slowly into a light gray because I didn't want any distraction from all of the texture and all the bubbles. So what do you think? Right now, I still have the 5, 6, and 7 to complete, but if I hold out my wingspan, I am getting probably 5 inches on each side overhang, and I am 5'8", so that is giving me what is it, 6 foot, say 6'6" right now on either like the width, and the depth of it is, I'm going to say, around 4 feet. So I know that this is going to be quite a big cover up, and when I'm working with it on the couch downstairs, we've had a couple of chillier evenings. Now it's getting a little warmer, but when I've been using this on my lap, resting it and working on the rows, it's been keeping me really warm. So I think I'll be using this as a throw downstairs in the lounge when I'm watching TV or something, but I absolutely love it. New things to me in the pattern are definitely these traveling post stitches that make different shapes. I have also learnt a technique here, which is a lot of treble crochets across, doing this kind of weave, like a cross stitch, but they are moving over a big distance. And the mistakes that I've made, I read these stitches here, they should be clustered doubles, but I actually did them as puff stitches. And in the end, I kind of like the puff stitch because the cluster doubles would have meant that some of the clustered doubles would have been worked up from the wrong side, and some of the clustered doubles would have been worked up from the right side. So I would get alternating stitches in each of the rows that form the bubbles or the clusters. And so there would be a little bit of a directional change feel from the stitch work. So I'm happy that I did puff stitches where it's both the same front and back. What else did I do that was wrong? Oh, I read the pattern incorrectly and I was treating the right side as the wrong side, and I had to make the correction by cutting my yarn and then going to the opposite side when I figured it out that I was working it backwards. But lucky for me, I read the pattern backwards until I got to a point when I knew something was up. So I had to actually cut the yarn and go to the other side to be on the correct side as I was reading the pattern. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. So let's take a look at the yarn. It's the Stenli Muffin cake. Excuse my crinkling. And it's in the color number 1602. And that's the ingredients of the cake should you like to take a screen grab of that, or if you're looking for it, that's where it will be. It is a bit toothy. I'm not going to lie. It does have a dry sense when it works across your fingers. And there is a bit of grip on the hook. They are separate strands, so that it's coming out of the bag like in 4 separate strands. And as the color transitions to the darker gray, one of the strands is clipped, and then the darker gray is introduced. And then further down the way, there'll be a second strand of that gray that's introduced. So it fades and gets darker and darker. But as you can see, there are tweedy bits in it. So we've got speckles there of blue, brown. I really like it. It's nice. So I knew I wouldn't have enough. So in true style of what I do when I'm trying to fudge yarn that looks like the yarn that I'm using and I'm running out with, I go to my stash and I see what I can do to make more of that yarn. And this time around, I had to mix 2 yarns together to come up with something that was fairly similar. I don't know whether you could spot it in the work, but there's a part of a section that I had used it's like duping a yarn, I guess. So Knit Picks Upcycle Alpaca blend, it's a sport weight, so it's 2, was my base color. It's really soft, this yarn, and it does have a little bit of variation in color, so it sort of resembles heathered, not tweed, but heathered quality. And then I added in some of this Cloudborn fiber, and I think I got this from Little Knits. It's a super merino wash sock twist yarn, and that's what it looks like there. So what I had done was I rolled them all up together, both of them. I knew I would need probably around another 300 meters of yarn, and this is how it came out with the 2 together. So I'm trying to replicate the Stenli because I knew I wouldn't have enough. So this one here with the more ropier twist, the 2 weight, is the Upcycle Knit Picks. And this one here, which is a fingering sock weight, is the Cloudborn. And that's a superwash merino. So together, I'm going to show you where I added it in. So I just put this back up. I used probably around close to 300 meters just in this section here. So I covered around, say, 8 to 9 rows, and that will get me through the rest of the cake that I have left over to the end. And I'm hoping if I do need to borrow again from my dupe, I will probably use a second hank of both the Cloudborn and the Upcycle to add into the make as well, just to get me to the end of the shawl. So yeah, that's it there. I'm wondering if you also have ever done the dupe yourself with your stash. Have you ever run out of your yarn and thought, well, I do have something that's similar, but I have to make it up so that it fits into the project? Let me know about that. And in case you're interested in the reverse side of the shawl, here it is here. So I'm getting lots of the stitch work in rows. So I'm seeing like the back side of the stitches when I've did my post work coming out more of the vertical stripes. Is it vertical? Yeah, it is vertical. And then I'm seeing that's where the bobble stitches are in the top part. The rest kind of looks slightly similar, but not too bad on the back side. Okay, the next project, I did do some knitting. The knit that I picked up this past 2 weeks was a shawl that I picked out because I was inspired by one of the mood board Mal's entries that I hosted back in, I think it ended, I want to say it ended in April 30th. And I did a slide presentation in early this month. And there was a make by Amy. She had chosen to do this shawl called the Linus. And it's a knit pattern. I'm trying to see who, Annett Cordes. It's a free pattern, so I can show it on camera here. And I got this from Ravelry. There was a little bit of a interesting disconnect through Ravelry, but for some reason I did find it on a different site. So it is a free pattern. And I had this amazing yarn that I just recently purchased from Vilrita, and this is the yarn that I had purchased amongst some other yarn. It's called Yarn Art Summer Dream, and it's a 2/8 as well, variegated. It's cotton and viscose, so it does have shiny bits in it from the viscose, and it has this nice beachy feel to the gradation of the yarn. And I paired it with 2 other yarns that I wanted to use up. It was leftovers from other projects. So I'm holding this one here, which is a mystery cotton stripe from Herrschners. I purchased it back when they had a sale. I think currently right now they have $14.99 per mystery of these cotton mill ends. And when I purchased them, they might have been a little bit of a discount, like going for, I think, $8 or something. So I jumped at it and I bought a few of them. And my suspicion is that these are Yarn Art Rosegarden cakes or Yarn Art flower cakes that you receive when you are purchasing them from Herrschners. So I used this one. Doesn't have a colorway. There's no number, but I think I found the Yarn Art number. It was 311 in the Rosegarden collection. And this one here is a beautiful hand-dyed yarn that I received from a good friend of the channel, Penny Bolton. She had dyed it with Kool-Aid, and I absolutely loved the two together. It has sparkle in it, so it goes nice. I don't know whether you can see that sparkle, but it goes so well with holding those two together and then using the viscose style variegated. So here's the Linus. I am swapping out the yarn every other row. So I'm doing 2 rows, then changing up, and then 2 rows, and then changing up again. So I'm bringing the colors up on the shorter side here. I'm showing you the back side, aren't I? So there we go. So this angle here is where I'm bringing the yarn up and I'm changing it out. I think it's really nice and drapey. It's going to be great for summer. It's going to be very thin and narrow. It doesn't get too deep, which is what I like for summer. So it's no fuss, and it will stay on if I wrap it around a few times. Maybe I could tie it in a knot. And yeah, it's a simple garter stitch. And I think this yarn speaks volumes in a simple stitch like garter. Yeah, I'm using a set of Chargu needles, and these ones were generously gifted to me by Donna. Thank you, Donna. I'm absolutely loving the 5-inch interchangeable needle sets, and this is the stainless steel Chargu. The size of it is 4 or 4.5. I think it might be 4.5. And I'm using the, it looks to me like a 24-inch cable. Yeah. So I'll keep going and working on that. It's great for TV knitting, and I can just get lost in the next color that gets pumped out of these little wonderful, what are they called again? Summer Dream. I absolutely love them. Look at that. It looks like a sunset. So that is my knit project, and just put that away. I'll grab the next project, so I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, I have the next project in hand, and this is a project that I did do last year. I completed it, and it was To the Nature's Walk by Sandra Paul. It's a crocheted blanket, and I had made a larger, twice the size as what was called for in the actual pattern. I wanted it a bit bigger, so I'm doing it again, and hopefully this year I'll finish it. I'm already at like 70 squares, and I'm trying to get to 160. So the Nature's Walk has multiple different motifs. I think 12 that you can get. 6 of them are free, and 6 of them are in the bonus package, and that's a paid for one. So I am currently I've actually finished with this square, because I've got my 16 that I want to do in this particular motif, and it's called Blossom. So here they are. It makes up a portion of them, because I did the Blossom as well in the colorway called, I believe it was Fox or Auburn. So this colorway here that I completed in the last 2 weeks is called, hang on, it's Stylecraft. The shade is called Parma Violet. So it's Stylecraft Special DK. And I got this from Wool Warehouse. That's all that I have left after making 8 of these motifs. In the last episode, I think I had done 1 or 2 of them, but now I have the additional 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I got 6 from this these 2 weeks, and these 2 were from last time I did my review. Really like the yarn. The yarn is very nice and soft, and it was easy to work with my 3.5mm crochet hook. And I like the color. The motif is very special, and I like the balance of all the filet parts of this motif that make the flower. It's called Blossom. So I'll put that to the side. I did start my next one, and I'm using Willow Rise in the colorway Charcoal, and this one is a combination of cotton acrylic. It's also a 3-weight yarn, and I'm using my 3.5mm again. And I did 3 of the gate. So that's my next one. Now the gates are free, part of the free pattern. The Blossom is part of the bonus pack. So this is what I'm working on. It's in a chart form. The nice thing about this pattern is that Sandra Paul has created it in English and US terminology. so you can get the free one in either or. And there's a written component, so if you prefer reading all the bits and pieces in a written form, then it's included as well in the pattern. And you can use the chart if you prefer the charts. So I'm really digging the charts right now, so I went straight to the charts. Now, this variegated yarn, it's actually tonal and it's slightly heathered, so it's heathered and tonal. I really like this yarn. I can't rave about this enough, and they discontinued this yarn. It's a wonderful yarn to use for if you're doing square work, like small squares like 6x6 or 5x5, and you'll find that through the course and series of the color change or the tone change, I'm going to get some of the gate that will be slightly darker, slightly lighter. So when I come to patchwork all of the squares together, I might find that I'll need a lighter version of this charcoal or a darker version of this charcoal to really make the other color sing around it. So I'm liking the fact that this is opening up the doorway of many different tones of the gray or the charcoal with just the one ball. And it will give me a few more, squares than the regular 100 grams, because this is a ball that has and offers up a little bit more yardage. It's I think it's a 1.5, yeah, it's 150 grams, and I'm going to get 435 meters. Okay, the next whip that I have here is also a free pattern that I found on Ravelry. It's called Windflower Hexagon, and it's by Johanna Lindell. She's the creator of the Dragon Ballet Shawl, and I am thinking of doing another quilt where I'm going to be doing hexagons with this star flower motif in the middle. It's slightly raised. Now I can show you the photos in this because it's a free pattern, and that's how they all join up. I have since found in Ravelry projects that have included their photographs, and there's been a really helpful descriptor of if you want to do a half a hexie so that you don't have to have a blanket that's jagged. You could do a straight edge, and that's probably what I'm going to do. I'm going to do straight edges on the long side, and then on the tops and bottom of this I'm going to have the jagged, just so that it feels a little bit more complete on two of the sides. And maybe on the other sides I might do some ruffling or some type of I don't know, something that sort of has a dangly bit maybe. I think that will work really nicely. And seeing all of the other blankets that are made, there's probably around 20 projects that have photographs, and I am of two minds. So I'm using a lot of the yarn that I purchased from Joanne recently. That was in the ombre, the Red Heart ombre. And I'm just looking over there. I've got some as well from Loops and Threads, which is a Michaels brand, and Big Twist. So those are the recent ones that I purchased from Joanne. And I don't know whether I'm going to go scrappy, because these are some of the ones that I've done. Really kind of interesting. Some of them better than others. How they're going to work up, I'm not too sure together. But I've done a few of them. And the inside of the, this one was using scraps. I wanted to use up some scraps. So I did play around with where I changed the yarn on the inside of the flower as well. And it might get a little bit too much that there are like 3 changes before getting to the border. This one also has 3 changes. So we've got it's got 2, 1, 2, and then the border. And discovering that maybe some variegated style specklies aren't the best because you lose out on all the puff stitches. Don't see them as well. But yeah. And what I came up with, now that I did these tests on doing different change outs of color and figuring out what I'm going to do there, I've decided to let the yarn do the talking and not so much it being controlled by myself. So I'm using my Red Heart ombres, and I've done a few from this ball here. It's called Violet, and I'm processing them through as little motifs and before I put the border on. And again, similar to what I was mentioning about the Willow Rise, how they're all slightly different colors. This is what's happening when I'm doing it from the ombre directly. I'm getting small variations in the shade of purple. So that's going to make the blanket super interesting. And I do like it. This yarn, I'm using a 5mm crochet hook. And this was a crochet hook that was gifted to me by Emmy Phillips. It's a Furls. That's what I'm deciding to use. It's a squeaky yarn, I'm finding. So when I'm using my Furls hook, it's actually making like little squeaky noises because I have to get in quite tight in there with the puffs that I'm doing. But look at that. Another yarn that I used, I had some scraps in that was kind of purplish, was the Mandala Ombre. And again, more so looking at the slightly speckled variety of the ombre part of the cake. I know that they do get heavily speckled and I don't want to lose those puffs. So that's part of the colorway called Felicity, I believe. Yeah, so that's also a project that is on the hook right now. I'm really enjoying it, and this is a free pattern. I think it's a great free recipe to try out different things with your scrap yarns, or to use up even the smallest bit of your scraps in a multi-purpose way in the motif. That's what I did with some of my really small. I only had like maybe 5 yards in a color, and I used it for the inside circle, or if I had a little bit longer, I could do maybe the petal leaves around, and even if I had a little bit more, I could do the whole border around. So good way of using up your little scrappy bits. Okay, I think that's all that I have to catch you up on. I'm just gonna look at my notes and see whether I have anything else. Okay, back again. I am just looking at my notes and I do see that I've got a few things. What I haven't done for a while is recommended things on TV, or if you have Netflix or the other channels, subscriptions, that these might be shows that you might be interested in watching while you're stitching away as well. Recently, we just wrapped up a series that I fell in love with. I thought it was a great look at 2 people's lives that intertwine, that sort of like separate and go off in different ways and then come back together, and then so on and so forth over a number of years from the, I'm going to say mid-80s all the way to 2000. It's called One Day, and it is quite a journey. So I really liked the way that it was set up. It takes a look at each episode is a new year, and it focuses either on one of the 2 or both of the characters and how they move apart and live their lives separately, and then how they come back together. And there is interest in there, there's tension, there's romance, there's a bit of everything. So if that's something you would like to watch, then I would recommend them. The first episode is a slightly longer version, so it does go for about 40 minutes, but then they're on in. All the other episodes are around 20 minutes. So a light kind of short vignette of their experiences with each other and other people in their lives. It's really interesting. I'm also watching the hockey playoffs right now. So if you don't know anything about this journey that I've been on, I used to live in Vancouver. So the hockey team for Vancouver is called the Canucks, and they've made the playoffs in hockey, which is something that they haven't done for a while. So we've been watching and supporting them. Tonight is, I believe, game 3 of them playing against the Oilers, which are from Edmonton, Alberta. We're obviously barracking and cheering them on. They're playing a very tough team, and the games have been super exciting, like back and forth with leading and then balancing up at the last moment to either play off in overtime, or yeah, it's just been super exciting to see it all play out. I should mention to you as well that we finished watching Ripley, which is a Netflix series here in Canada, and it was following a storyline from another movie. I'm sure it came from a novel to begin with, but back 15 years ago, there was a movie called The Talented Mr. Ripley, and it was a film that was focused centered around a con artist who took on false persona, like he took stolen identity. It's centered in the 1950s, I think, 1940s, 1950s. And it starred Matt Damon, Jude Law, Cate Blanchett, and Gwyneth Paltrow back in the day. Like, that was 15 years ago. So they've come up with a series that's over maybe 12 episodes. And they're all around, say, half an hour to 40 minutes. And we followed it, and it was so intense. It was so thrilling. There was a bit of there's no mystery because you're privy to see everything. But the way other people are investigating a series of events to find out, to get to the bottom of things, that you see play out as they are trying to uncover the truth. So I don't know who is the main actor in them. I think there is a Dakota in there. And yeah, I'm so sorry. I don't know what the actors' names are. Some are British, putting on American accents. And I've seen them before in other things. The performances are amazing. I think they've excelled even more than the movie itself 15, 12 years ago when it was aired on the big screen. This one has wonderful cinematography. I get the sense of film noir in it. The soundtrack is amazing. And each of the spots that they go around filming in are just breathtaking. It's in black and white, but there are spots of colors in there. So you do get the sense of symbolism and that nice splash of color here and there, which makes the filming even that more interesting. So let me know if you've seen it. I want to hear whether you enjoyed it, whether there were any outstanding performers, if you enjoyed the cinematography as well. Notes say that I should speak something about what's coming up in the future, and I'm really excited about it. I know we're all kind of like think about getting out and doing things when the summer is here and the weather is better. So I'm going to be doing the same, but I do have a lineup of things that I'm focusing on as I do get the chance to come in here once in a while to film. And that will be the Q&A session in June, just to finish up those questions, as well as I have a wonderful Happy Mail box of amazing, beautiful yarn to share with you. It was generously gifted to me, and some of this yarn I've never felt before, and I'm super excited to talk about what my ideas are for it and share with you, you know, how it feels in my hands. I have an ice order and a Joann's order that's coming in, and actually the ice one's already here, so I'll be doing that as well, doing a bit of a compare, because I think I found substitute yarns that are good over a number of different brands. So I'm eager to take a look to see and investigate whether those initial thoughts are true or whether they're false. And I also will be doing my mood board mail again for the summer issue. And I'm thinking of starting that in June. I've come up with a really good theme. It's going to be different from the ones that we've done in the past. So we looked at emotions and we looked at song lyrics. This one's going to be, again, something even different from that, but it will be looking at how to evoke emotion, and I can't wait to talk about it. Now, I think that's it. I think we're up to date. My notes are done. I feel happy with what I've covered, and I want to hear what you've been working on, whether you've got plans for the summer. Let me know in the description box down below. Are you going to take a project away with you when you go traveling? I want to hear about all of your plans. So until the next time, I'll see you then. Bye.